Do you have a hard time picturing things in your mind's eye? Some people have a hard time seeing things at all in their mind's eye and wonder what the third eye is all about and how come we keep talking about it if they can't see what we are seeing. Well, today's video is all about a condition called aphantasia. Stick around, you'll want to learn all about it. Aphantasia, that's seeing the world without your mind's eye. Aphantasia comes from the Greek words a, meaning without, and fantasia, like in Disney, meaning imagination. Now, aphantasia then you would think means without imagination, but this isn't entirely true. If you have aphantasia, you know that you still have an imagination. It only means that you have a hard time seeing with your mind's eye. You know, this is just a fascinating variation of the human condition. And I really wanted to dive deeper, so I did some research into it. And the more I looked at it, the more I realized it doesn't mean that you're broken, broken if you have this condition. It really only means that there is a disconnect between the mind and the body. And just like any other connection or muscle, right? You just need to exercise it a little bit. And I'm convinced that you can see some real improvement. Aphantasia can be congenital, meaning maybe you were born with it. But it also could be due to trauma, and that can be physical or mental. So science really isn't sure why some people experience aphantasia. But aside from a brain injury, there is a lot of reason to believe that this condition can greatly be improved by doing some simple exercises. You know, we know that left brain dominated people tend to see things with words more than images, whereas right-brained people seem to think more in images. One theory is that people who have aphantasia actually do have imagery in their mind's eye, but like I was saying, they, for some reason, just aren't making the connection there. So psychologically, this is associated oftentimes with depression or anxiety or even a dissociative disorder. The bottom line is that there's a disconnect somewhere in the mind and body communication. So the communication between your mind and body definitely can be improved upon. And like I say, it doesn't mean that anything is broken. In fact, you may have heard of the guy. His name is Ed Catmull. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, but he's the co-founder of Pixar. And Blake Ross, well, now he's the co-founder of internet browser Firefox. And then there's Penn Jillette, of Penn and Teller fame. These are just some of the notable people who have aphantasia. Well, now, obviously, it hasn't impeded their success or their ability to create. In fact, they're some of the most creative people that we have, right? Or that we know. So, indeed, it is not a handicap. Magnetic resonating, MRIs, resonance imaging, has found people with aphantasia to have a slightly different pattern back in the visual cortex than people who don't have aphantasia. So you can see a different pattern there. Again, it just shows that the neurons aren't talking to one another. They're not communicating. And so the visual cortex is working a little bit differently. And it's in a way that Western science, unfortunately, still just doesn't understand. However, mental imagery is not necessary for imagination or for creativity at all. You can visualize without seeing things. You can visualize using literally all of your other senses. You can visualize with your sense of smell and taste and touch and even your feelings. Often there, you know, if you have aphantasia, oftentimes that means that you have an enhanced sense elsewhere. You know, kind of like someone who is born blind or goes blind, one of their other senses will be enhanced. Oftentimes that's the case with someone who has aphantasia. And how cool is that? Because if you have this condition, you may or may not know that you've been walking around this whole time with an enhanced sense that now you can explore. So that's pretty cool. I'd say that's really groovy. And so what you would do with this is, in meditation, you would close your eyes, of course, and instead of seeing with your mind's eye, which you're having difficulty doing, right? That's what aphantasia is. You would focus relaxing first on every single body part, one at a time, nice and slow, and focus on your breathing. Really pay attention to how your breath feels as it enters in through your nose and the coolness of it. You know, really savor every single sensation. And then kind of do like a body scan. Start at your feet, you know, start with your toes and notice sensations there and see if you can make them tingle. Move your attention up your legs, maybe move on up to your knees and see if you can focus your attention there. Notice any sensations that are going on there, and so on. And take a full body inventory, one part at a time. And this is training your brain to literally communicate with your body, and you'll be making new connections, new neurons. Your brain has neuroplasticity, meaning that it is very malleable. You can make new connections at will, just with a little bit of practice. You can practice with your thoughts in other ways, using your other senses. For example, think of fresh-baked cookies. Can you imagine that with your eyes closed? Can you smell the cookies? Think of something else that you know you can smell, like maybe your favorite perfume that your mom used to wear or something like that. Practice using all your different senses in your mind's eye rather than vision if you're having a hard time with that. Can you visualize tasting a lemon? Can you make your mouth water as if you just bit into one? That's really good practice. What else? Can you imagine that you're feeling a soft kitten's fur on your face? Can you close your eyes and just imagine what that feels like? Making new connections there between the mind and the body, right? And especially if you, when you practice these connections, if you practice with ones that have to do with love and gratitude or feelings of, like the cookies and the kitten, right? That, for some reason, we know that the vibration of love and gratitude does an extra wonderful job of rewiring the brain. Well, we also know trauma does too. That's how PTSD happens, and we don't want that, but we can do the opposite, right? Rewire your brain with wonderful thoughts and making that mind-body connection. And who knows, with enough practice, you may start to actually visualize images and pictures. It's happened to a lot of my clients too, where they actually started seeing things, and it may just be a little bit of lights or, you know, flickers at first, and then maybe the shapes might be there, but real blurry. that's okay. Hey, that's improvement, right? Another thing you can do is kind of just tap here with your eyes closed and see if you notice lights or colors. And that's just another way to train. You want to be gentle, of course, but a little bit of tapping, that can help you along with practicing the mind-body communication. The other thing is to make sure you fall in love with all the senses that you have, whether they are working tip-top shape to your liking or not. Still, you need to appreciate them for what they are. Because after all, if you think about it, you won the lottery. You're here. You got to be in a human form. Your angelic, angel, spirit, whatever you want to call it, your soul, this wonderful spirit of yours is inhabiting a human form at this time in your life, and you're here because you're trying to become healthier, right? And so one of the things that you really need to practice is that mind and body connection, so that your spirit has great communication, so that you can do things like heal yourself. Okay, so the act of having appreciation and love for your sense of taste and smell and sight and hearing, to whatever degree that you have, and the visualization you have in your mind's eye, even if you have none, appreciate that, because even that appreciation can sometimes manifest it into being. Appreciation for it as if you have it. That's really how you manifest things into the 3D world where we are residing. So the actual act of loving your senses, loving your body, period, will help your body to heal. It helps your cells to rejuvenate and to repair. So that's the vibration we're aiming for. Love, appreciation, and kindness and gratitude. The other thing you can do is keep a journal. You know why? Because keeping a journal is actually helping to program your subconscious brain. When you start doing that, you're apt to start dreaming. If you don't have dreams, this can really help, get that started. And if you already are dreaming, well, then journaling can just enhance that. And maybe you can even begin to lucid dream, which only further helps to connect those connections, connect up those neurons that for whatever reason haven't been communicating real great. So we'll connect them up and make them communicate a little bit better with some of this practice. So by journaling, you're actually programming that subconscious to be thinking about other things, and lo and behold, you may just get some images in your dreams. And when you're in a dream, you might become aware that you're dreaming. This is what we call lucid dreaming. I've been practicing with this, you guys, for years. Ever since I was a teenager and I learned that there was such a thing as lucid dreaming, I actually will be aware that I'm dreaming while I'm dreaming, and then I'll say things to myself like, oh, that's right, you must be dreaming. And the reason why I know is because something ridiculous will be going on, and I have a very analytical mind, so I will say, well, no, that's ridiculous, that can't be real. Okay, I must be dreaming. Oh, and so the minute that dawns on me, I'm off and running playing with it. The more you play with your dreams and try to control it and move it around, see if you can change the colors, see if you can fly, see if you can swim, see if you can breathe underwater. These are things I play with all the time. It's your fantasy world. It's your, what you're doing is you're actually going into another dimension with your conscious. And the more you play with that, the more you're hooking up and connecting more neurons, so that you've got better intuition, more mind-body connection in all kinds of different areas that we probably aren't even aware of. In fact, I know we're not even aware of yet, right? More connections than we're aware of, and then some. So if you have aphantasia, I'm here to tell you, you're not broken. In fact, you're probably enhanced in other areas. And so, you know, like a wonderful mystery, like follow the clues and see where are you enhanced in other places, and how can you enhance this mind-body connection. I'm sure you can think up other examples or other ways to practice than just the examples that I gave you here, because you're creative like that, right? The more you get creative, the more things you create, the more ideas you have, the more mind-body connections you create. Ah, yeah, that's really groovy.